Today I am going to show you how to install Cobra eyes, which are windshield washer nozzles with built-in LED lights. They're pretty sharp. Once you get these things hooked up, they really make your car stand out. The nozzles are standard replacement for the OEM washers. They also have adjustable nozzles, so you can adjust the spray pattern, so you can get every spot on your windshield, which is important. It may look nice, but they gotta work. As you can see on this vehicle, we've got the windshield washer nozzle on either side. It's a simple rubber hose attaching it. Remove the rubber hose. Sometimes the hoses are stiff, and the key is not to compress the hose by pulling on it, but to get under the lip of it and slide it off. Compress the clips and remove. And repeat for the other side. So once we've unpackaged the LED nozzles, you can see that they're a little larger than the OEM nozzles, but they fit in just the same. Always want to make sure that the surface is clean, that I'm not embedding any dirt under any gaskets that would eventually chafe and lead to rust. So with a damp sponge, make sure the area is clean, make sure it's smooth to the touch. You get the wires threaded through the hole. You can see the two nozzles face the windshield. And from this view, you can see the wire and threading come through. Make sure the nozzles are pointing forward. Insert the washer in the vertical position. Make sure that the wires are in the cutout so as not to pinch them against the metal on the hood. Then I'm going to place one washer. I'm going to place the washer in the nut. And just go ahead and, we're not going to make it tight, we're just going to snug it enough to stay in place, and then feel and make sure that the wires are not pinched. You can go ahead and tighten it up by hand. We're going to go ahead and repeat for the other side. Alright, let's go ahead and reconnect the windshield washer hose. Just get that up all the way. And make sure that there's an equal amount of slack on either side so that stress doesn't pull it back out. Next, the wiring. See where we want to go with it. This case here, I've already thought it out and where my access point is going to be, and I'm ensuring that I actually have enough wire to make that happen. Temporarily put the wire where we want it. The idea here is we want everything, like I say, nice and clean, away from where it'll be pinched. Parallel. We've clipped excess wire. Well, we're taking approximately a 1/4 inch off, minimal as possible. Let's take these two white ones to form one wire, and that is enough to do so there. We're going to take this wire here, and it can be just straight, and we're going to go ahead and flow the solder onto the wire. Nice and shiny. We are going to flow solder onto this wire here, nice and shiny, and then we're going to ensure the flow all together. Nice and shiny. And it's really just that quick. You don't need to overheat it. You don't need globs. The actual glob does not do the job. So, and then we're going to melt the shrink tube on top of that. You don't want to burn it, you just want to heat it. And repeat for the other wire. Take a piece of electrical tape. You will fold the electrical tape back over on itself. Nice and tight. And then roll it, roll it, roll it. So we're going to remove the side marker light, which actually sits here. And then remove the bulb. Set it aside. And I'm actually going to bring the wire up between the frame and the headlight so I actually have more room to work on it. So what we're going to do here, rather than cut the wire and try to work at splicing, since we really don't have much room unless we were to pull the headlight, which requires a lot more work. So what we're actually going to do is remove the insulation and be careful not to actually cut the wire. And we don't need to expose more than 1/4 inch. And shake it off. Clean the tip. A little solder, you don't need much. But now we've got a nice shiny wire. You can always refer to, if you have one, a shop manual on the car. It'll give you the wiring colors and codes for all the wires, including the which is the ground and which is the positive. General rule of thumb, of course, is red is hot. It doesn't always hold true. Color coding really varies throughout the car. I come in here, make a nice little saddle connection. It's nice and shiny. And that's the other thing, when your solder hardens, it will be nice and shiny if it's a good connection. You can pull on it, and that's good. Bring it back on itself. Again, make sure we're covering the joint. The tape actually comes back onto itself, so sticky side against sticky side. And then the thing is, you want to make sure it's nice and tight. Squeeze it in well. If you notice, I made the tape longer on the last one, so we're coming around both wires. That's that. And then additionally, to protect that connector and to ensure that the wires aren't stressed, they don't get pulled on, I normally will take a cable tie and cable tie right at the back side before the solder joint. And I will cable tie it and cut it off. And this will keep, in case it does get pulled on, that puts the stress at the cable tie, not at the solder joint. This point here, take the original light bulb and clean it off. Bring your connector back down through. Connect it back in. The original orientation of the wires coming out the back are 90 degree. Generally they are down. The reason for that is weatherproofing. Obviously if a connector is a 90 degree connector and it's vertical, then water will tend to follow the lines back in. We're also going to go ahead and do the same on this one here. Like I say, we've got 2 wires coming into one with a solder joint right there. Once again, on the wire side before the solder connection, I'm going to cable tie this and as tight as I can. Once again, the wires get pulled on. That ensures there's no stress on the solder joint and no chance of the wires being pulled out of the insulation. All right, we're going to start with our wire loom, and you're going to place it right where you want to start your loom at. We're actually going to just work it down, work it down, work it down. Painter's tape comes right off. The hose goes through this fitting here. It is not a fitting you can open. The hose has to be fed through. There's not enough room to actually put the loom, wire, and tubing through it, so we're actually going to go over it. We're actually literally going to cover. You can see the loom is kind of wide there, but it works just fine. We've pre-measured everything, so we should be good to go. And actually my intent here is to come up with this one loom across this connector all the way here. Then I'll start with an additional loom. This one has already measured and pre-cut the loom to fit. As you can see, it goes right to the connector there. I'm going to cut it. I don't like the way this joint is here. The wiring and the loom can only come down so far, and because it can't cover this whole joint. And you'll find that most of the manufacturer fittings on the vehicle, they do the same, where they have 2 sections of wire coming together. Now if you really want this connector and this junction here in electrical tape to stay nice and dressed where it won't unpeel, is you can actually, when you last wrap it, is put a little bit of super glue there and it'll keep it from unwrapping. Run your thumb down the length of it, helps loosen it up. Temperature right now is starting in the 60s. Of course, the warmer the temperature is, the more flexible the loom will be. You definitely don't want to be doing this in 30-degree weather. because the loom will actually start to get brittle and it'll crack. Okay, so what we're going to do here is this is where it leaves the hose. So we will be putting a cable tie here. It won't fit in this clamp here. The hose will fit in there, but the loom is not flexible enough to be able to totally encompass the fitting. It's important to size things up to ensure that which way we're going to run things. In this case here, you can see it doesn't work to cross behind. It's going to have to actually run it over this way, and I'm going to put a cable guide right here. I want to make sure that is this going to clear the hood. Rolls around. This right here is designed to give some flex in the cable. I think we'll actually come under it rather than going over it, and it'll serve the same purpose. Let's see what we got here now. Okay, we're not pinching anything. It comes up, and we got lots of flex. This is actually allowed, so you can take some stress there. Okay, we're tight there. I'm going to come across here. We're tight here. There's enough room here. Things move around. Tried a couple times. All right, we're there. So we're going to put a little cable guide here. You can see as long as we're not over the top of the strut, we ought to be good to go. Clean the area with alcohol for better adhesion. Well, line it up. Press it down. Let it sit a little bit there. The longer it gets to sit before you put stress on it, the more likely it will stay together. So now we just need to add the last section. Although this loom is overkill for just one wire, I'm using the same size loom just for appearance sake. Make sure the ends are nice and clean. Match it up. I'm actually doubling it over it a little bit there. So we're going to actually go one wrap prior to the joint and pull it taut as we come across the splice. Come across okay, now we're across the joint. The joint's in the middle. These two are snugly together. And I'll finish the end. This will go inside here. And in this case here, I really want it to go from the underside removing connectors like that haven't been used in years or haven't been opened in years, it's a good idea to take a look at the contacts inside and make sure that there's no corrosion and that they've had a good seal. Now I can go under everything, reconnect it. Nice clean connectors on the inside, looks good. So everything is still nice and accessible. Slide it all with the end. You can see all our lights are illuminated, and that's it. Job well done.